friends, I'm Bryn.
And I'm Maggie.
And this is Friends Who Crime.
Friends Who Crime.
Before we dive into this truly wild case, let me do our usual Friends Who Crime housekeeping. First, if you love what you hear, you know the drill. Hit that follow button on Instagram at Friends Who Crime. I post cool updates, behind the scenes stuff to go along with each case. And while you're at it, please rate us 5 stars on whatever streaming service you're listening on. It helps us reach more amazing people like you. All right, now for the moment you've all been waiting for. I've got my friend Maggie joining me today.
Hello there.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing quite well. I get to meet your cats today.
Yes.
So it's a good day.
It's a long time coming.
Long time coming.
So tell us a little bit about you. What do you do? What's your life like?
Oh man, well I'm originally from Nebraska, moved to Austin a little over a year ago, just looking for more and better people. Than Nebraska are nice people, but they're all the same. So we wanted to find some cooler, different, more hip people down here in Austin. So made my way down here, and I work in insurance, so it's nothing exciting, but it keeps a roof over my head and food in my cat's bowls. So that's what's important.
Hell yeah. Priorities. Your priorities are on point. And how do we know each other? Gosh.
I'm trying to remember. I think the first time I met you was at the Rio Mart show. I think that was like your birthday, kind of like a show, and I kind of showed up the latter half. I missed you performing, but I came to see Tyler's band The Episodes play.
Yeah.
And then I've just like seen you at a couple other, like at Batch and stuff for various Eastside music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all connected through Eastside music.
Friends of friends.
Yes.
I say this every episode, but like people probably get tired of listening and be like, oh, another music friend.
Well, I'm not a professional musician or someone who teaches, so I'm like the amateur that just started drum lessons, like 7 months ago, but I guess I'm running in those circles, so.
And are you, like, as far as true crime, are you like a seasoned pro? Do you hate it? Like,
I love true crime. I'm definitely like and generally speaking, I don't do actually like much podcast listening, but I love a good true crime series or like movie on like Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff. I'm a big consumer of the true crime documentary, I will say. Read a couple of books as well, but definitely more on the film side of things.
Yeah, that's how I started as well. Do you have like a favorite documentary or case?
So I remember there's been a couple of series on O.J. Simpson, but I love that, the Amanda Knox stuff.
Oh yeah.
There was The Staircase. Yeah. Oh, so good. There's too many to count, but those are at least a couple at the top of my head that were just like super engrossing.
Amanda Knox fascinates me.
Right?
And Hulu is actually, they just released like the first episode or 2 of a drama series.
Oh, I saw the trailer, but it's actually okay. Wow. I'll probably be digging into that.
I'm excited. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very hit or miss when they
and sometimes it's
them.
like the like redemption of the like protagonist of it all, and instead of like the facts, it's like no, the person that all this hullabaloo is about is trying to like rebrand themselves and try and paint a different picture, so you never know if it's going to be that versus more of kind of factual following of things. So we shall see. Time will tell.
Well, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I have to hit you with a Brinterruption. This is very off the cuff today, but I got a new job, so I'm leaving one of my other jobs and moving to a new school. So that starts in a couple weeks. Actually, by the time this comes out, I think I'll already have started. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's the biggest thing going on in my life right now, other than like packing and being stressed and recovering from being sick and all of that. So I don't know, can't complain. All right, you ready to get into this?
I'm ready to dig in. Give me my shovel.
All right. For anyone who's new to the podcast, I realize I haven't said this recently. My guests don't have any clue about the case that I'm talking about. Like, I don't give them any warning or tell them what it's about. Like, I do my research, they show up, and I tell them about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. Today we're talking about the case of Boulder Jane Doe. We start on a beautiful spring day, the kind that makes you want to throw on your hiking boots, grab a friend, and head out to explore. The sun is shining, the air is crisp, and the sounds of a babbling creek promise a peaceful escape. You're deep in the canyon, surrounded by the stunning natural beauty of Boulder, Colorado. You're looking for a hidden waterfall, maybe a quiet spot just to breathe it all in. And what if, instead of finding that serene beauty, you stumbled onto something truly horrific? Something that would haunt a community for over half a century. A mystery so profound it would become a symbol of nameless tragedy. That's exactly what happened in Boulder, 1954.
1954. I love Boulder, but no, look at this sordid past from like 75 years ago almost. Jeez.
On April 8th, 1954, 2 college students were enjoying their hike near Boulder, Colorado. They were exploring the rugged, beautiful landscape along the edge of Boulder Creek near Boulder Falls. It was a picturesque setting. The kind of place where you'd expect to find peace and natural wonder. Instead, they found the nightmare. Lying along the creek bank, at the bottom of an almost 30-foot embankment, was the body of a young woman. They immediately contacted the sheriff's office, which, check, good for them.
Good for them.
When police arrived, the sight was grim. The young woman was completely nude, and her body showed obvious signs of blunt force trauma. Due to exposure to the elements and wild animals, her body had been significantly ravaged, making identification incredibly difficult. In fact, her face was pretty unrecognizable. The only distinguishing physical feature investigators could immediately discern was an appendectomy scar. Which, as someone who has had an appendectomy, I'm like, that's good to know that I maybe could be identified now.
Via my scar. Okay.
The scar and or tattoos.
Yeah.
One of the two. Beyond that, she appeared to be a blonde woman in her 20s, but there were no dental fillings that might have helped with dental records, which were, the primary method of identification at the time. No clothing, no murder weapon, no other evidence was found at the scene. It was as if she had just simply, materialized there, out of thin air, with no trace of her life or the crime that ended it. An autopsy later confirmed the horrifying details. The pathologist concluded that the victim was still alive when she was thrown down that steep embankment. She had suffered a skull fracture and numerous broken bones and significant organ damage. It's a lot.
Yeah.
The autopsy also revealed she had been sexually assaulted, unfortunately. A coroner's inquest ultimately determined that her death was caused by, quote, shock caused by a severe beating by person or persons unknown with felonious intent. The brutality of the attack, combined with the post-mortem animal activity and the killer's apparent efforts to remove any evidence, created an almost insurmountable challenge for the investigators of 1954. The technology just wasn't what it is today. There's no DNA analysis. That wouldn't exist for decades. So the immediate and overwhelming lack of identifying features meant that the victim's identity was effectively erased from the outset, leaving detectives with virtually no leads to pursue.
Dang.
So it seems hopeless at this point.
Right, it does.
With no way to identify her, the young woman was destined for a grave without her name. The announcement that someone's daughter would be buried anonymously deeply moved the local townspeople. They refused to let her be forgotten, even if her name remained a mystery. In a heartwarming display of community compassion, residents took up a collection to buy her a proper plot in Boulder's Columbia Cemetery. A local mortuary donated the casket, and a Catholic priest volunteered his time to perform the funeral service. It was a simple act of kindness for a stranger. Her grave was marked with a humble little headstone that read Jane Doe, April 1954, age about 20 years. So sweet.
So sweet.
Of the community to do that.
it is, but still so sad that she's just a Jane Doe.
I know. I know. But we are only at the beginning of our story here.
This is true. Please
you never
do
know.
tell. Let's see what comes out.
Despite the community's efforts to honor her, the investigation quickly stalled. Original department records from that area were either lost or simply didn't exist in a comprehensive format, and tragically many of the initial investigators had passed away. The case of Boulder Jane Doe went cold, remaining unsolved for over 50 years. Yep. But there's this little spark of hope that's coming up, okay? For decades, the Boulder Jane Doe remained nameless, her grave a quiet testament to her unsolved mystery. But in 1996, a local historian named Silvia Pettem stumbled upon that humble headstone in Columbia Cemetery. The simple inscription ignited a determination within her. She said, "No one should go to a grave without a name," a sentiment that would drive her for years. Silvia was a middle-aged mom with no formal police training, and she embarked on a tireless personal investigation. She scoured newspaper archives, court records, genealogy sites, essentially reconstructing the original case file that law enforcement no longer possessed. Her dedication was so profound that officials would later describe her contributions as the lion's share of the initial documentation, which ultimately provided law enforcement with a firm basis for reopening the case.
Wow, wow, wow.
There you go. Her efforts saved investigators hundreds of hours of work, effectively becoming the basis for a case where official records had long since vanished. Yeah.
Look at her go.
Look at her go,
One
Silvia.
woman's determination.
Right? So cool that she literally had no stake in this woman's death, yet she took it upon herself to like figure out what happened just from seeing the gravestone.
Yeah.
She's like, I gotta figure that out.
Yep. I get it. But sometimes we're just bound to our curiosity.
Right.
And in this case, it's also maybe hopefully solving someone's murder, like the whole mystery surrounding it.
And like, what are the chances that she would just be in that cemetery, come across that gravestone, and then...
And just take it upon herself.
Yeah, she's the one that's like, I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah. Incredible.
She's a real one. In September 2004, armed with her extensive research, Silvia approached the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. She posed a critical question. Could modern technology be used to identify this woman and possibly even a suspect? This prompted authorities to officially reopen the case. Despite the passage of time, early investigators in 1954 had the foresight to preserve the victim's DNA and dental imprints, hoping that future technology advancements might one day help identify their Jane Doe. And I love when that happens.
Right, you actually have some foresight
Right.
to think like we may not know now, but some of these things might be helpful down the line.
And so many cold cases get solved that way. So it's the smart investigators from back then. Once the case was reopened, investigators, now armed with Silvia's groundwork and the preserved forensic samples, began to explore new leads. Two women emerged as strong candidates for Boulder Jane Doe, bringing a surge of hope, but not for very long. I don't know what my voice is doing right now.
Oh, crickety cracks.
Right. Okay, here we go. This is the fun part. The first promising lead was Catherine Farrand Dyer. She was a 24-year-old blonde who had disappeared from a boarding house in March of 1954, just weeks before Jane Doe was found. Catherine was in the midst of a nasty divorce, had an affair, and was pregnant, leading her husband to kick her out of their home. What a guy.
What a guy.
Her lover had also rejected her and the baby. Investigators believed they had a strong circumstantial evidence pointing to Catherine as Boulder Jane Doe. And for a while, she was the primary focus. They were like, this is the lady. This is the one. However, in July of 2009, a dramatic turning point arrived in the form of an email to Silvia, simply titled, Catherine Farrand Dyer. The message began with a starting line, quote, You may need to be sitting down when you read this. Always a great first line
Always
to
good. Ominous.
It turned out Catherine was alive and well, living in Australia. She had simply skipped her divorce hearing, moved to California where she had a child who tragically died in a car accident, and then relocated to Hawaii before going to Australia. This obviously immediately ruled her out as Boulder Jane Doe.
Sure did.
Another strong candidate was Twylia Embry, another young woman who had disappeared around the same time, possibly on her way to the West Coast. She fit the general profile, and for a period, she was considered the primary candidate. But in April 2007, officers were contacted by a woman who claimed to be her best friend. As it turned out, Twylia had indeed run away, but not west. She had gone northeast, settling in Boston, where she lived under an assumed identity, integrated into the community, and married a businessman. She lived a happy life.
Go girl.
Surrounded by friends, doting on nieces and nephews. What are the odds this happens twice?
Yeah. They're both alive. Yeah, it's not just the case of, they are dead, but they're not, the right people, but they're both alive.
And it's like, hooray, they're alive. That's great. But also,
this isn't helping our investigation.
Right.
Yeah.
Just weeks after Catherine Dyer was Just weeks after Catherine Farrand Dyer was definitively. That's a hard word.
Gotta enunciate that one.
Right?
Definitively.
After Catherine was ruled out. I'm just gonna leave it there. Yeah. Silvia received a new email. It was from Michelle Fowler, a 24-year-old college student in Madison, Wisconsin. The subject line said, "I believe Jane Doe is my great-aunt." Michelle had been searching for her great-aunt, Dorothy Gay Howard, on the internet and stumbled upon the Boulder Jane Doe story on the Doe Network, which is an online database for unidentified persons that have been found. Michelle quickly connected with Silvia and Detective Ainsworth, the detective on the case. She actually persuaded Dorothy's surviving sister, Marlene Ashman, to provide a DNA sample. So, just to round this up, because there's a lot of names flying around. Silvia, who's investigating the case with Detective Ainsworth, got an email from Michelle, who says, "I think my great-aunt, Dorothy, is Boulder Jane Doe. Dorothy has a sister named Marlene, who is alive, and gives a DNA sample to see if they can confirm that it's Dorothy as Boulder Jane Doe."
Perfect. We need that confirmation, clarification moving forward. Lots of moving parts here.
Yes. Marlene initially offered the sample hoping to eliminate her sister as a possibility, and she was floored when it came back positive. The DNA sample was sent to a private laboratory widely used by law enforcement that had already extracted a full mitochondrial DNA profile from a single tooth of Boulder Jane Doe back in 2005. Dr. Terry Melton, the CEO and president of the lab, graciously agreed to perform the DNA comparison for free. Mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA, is a powerful tool in forensics, especially for those older, highly degraded, aged samples, because it's more robust than nuclear DNA, which can be just not as, definitive, I guess. And it can be, mtDNA can be extracted from materials like hair shafts or bones, where nuclear DNA might not survive all of that. And this made it perfect for a 55-year-old sample from Jane Doe. The waiting period was excruciating, but on October 23rd, 2009, Dr. Melton confirmed the match. Boulder Jane Doe finally had her name back, Dorothy Gay Howard. The details of Dorothy's life aligned perfectly with the few known facts about Jane Doe. Dorothy, known to her family as Dot, which is so precious.
I love those old-timey little things. Oh.
She was born on March 26th, 1936, meaning she was just 18 years old at the time of her murder. She was described as slender and petite, had no dental fillings, and, you guessed it, an appendectomy.
Wow, wow, wow.
All of these characteristics matched precisely with the remains found near Boulder Creek. Dorothy had gone missing from Phoenix, Arizona in 1954, just weeks before her body was discovered in March. Her family, including Marlene and another sister, Bobby, who passed away in 2005, had long assumed that Dot was probably alive somewhere and had simply chosen to disappear and cease contact. The news of her identification as Boulder Jane Doe was shocking, but it also brought a sense of closure, allowing them to finally have answers and begin to move forward. Mm-hmm. It's pretty amazing, honestly. The technology developed so much between 1954 and 2009, which really, like, in the grand scheme of things, isn't that long of a time period. But I feel like, I mean, we've seen it in our lifetime already.
Right.
Like, technology just goes...
Yeah, because, like, I mean, the 90s is when they first even, like, started using DNA, like, at all. And that was still very, like, primitive in, like, in terms of, like, yeah, it being accurate and everything else. And, yeah, holy buckets.
Right.
Yeah. Wowie zowie.
A little bit more about Dorothy. She was from Phoenix originally. She was the oldest child in her family, and she had her two younger sisters, Marlene and Bobby. Marlene described Dorothy as strong-willed and a little bossy. She was also beautiful, and I meant to have a picture ready to go. Hold on. She was drop-dead gorgeous. Look at her.
Oh, she's so, like, precocious, and I love these,
Right.
like, the old curls of, like, the, yeah, wow.
She's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very, like, movie star-esque.
Yes, very movie star.
Oh, glamour.
At 16 years old, Dorothy married David Powell, who was that man in the picture, a 19-year-old Air Force pilot. Her parents were really skeptical of this marriage, understandably, and it turns out they were kind of right. The marriage only lasted 6 months. A few months after the divorce, Dorothy married another man, Kenneth Kirkman. Her parents actually had zero idea about this marriage. She never told them. She didn't tell them at all, and they actually didn't know that she had married Kenneth until after she disappeared. They found out when they read a legal notice in the local newspaper saying Kenneth had divorced her. Yikes. When Dorothy disappeared, she had been working as a nanny, and when Dorothy's family hadn't heard from her in a while, they called where she was nannying, only to be told she didn't work there anymore. It's suspected that Dorothy came to the Boulder area to visit her aunt, but there's no evidence that this was her intent, and definitely no evidence that she made it to her aunt's house. Unfortunately, investigators never got to ask her aunt, who died at 103 years old.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Even with Dorothy's name restored, the crucial question remained. Who killed her?
Yeah.
Who done it? While no definitive proof has emerged to formally charge a suspect, investigators, particularly Detective Ainsworth, theorized that Dorothy was likely the first victim of a notorious serial killer and rapist named Harvey Glatman. Have you heard of that guy?
I don't think so.
Okay. I had heard of him, but I did not know that he was involved in this case at all. So when I was researching, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense.
Wow, this crazy Harvey.
Right?
At it again.
So we are going to talk a little bit about him.
Yes.
Glatman was born in the Bronx. Wow. The Bronx? The broccoli? No. He was born in the Bronx in 1927. Had moved to Denver, Colorado early in his childhood, making his presence in the region during Dorothy's disappearance geographically plausible. He became known as the Lonely Hearts Killer, or the Glamor Girl Slayer, operating in the late 1950s. This guy was a real shitbag, like, to say the least. He lured women with the promise that he would help them start their modeling career, but the only thing he was modeling was how to be a complete and utter garbage human being. If you're out there thinking about luring Wow. Oh my gosh. I don't know what's with me today. If you're out there thinking about luring people with fake job offers, just know you're probably going to end up like Harvey. Dead in a gas chamber and forever remembered as a total creep. Good riddance to Harvey.
Riddance. Oh.
Glatman would then take them to his apartment, tie them up, sexually assault them, and take pictures. He was known for his obsession with rope. And after the assault, he would strangle his victims and dump their bodies, often in remote, desolate areas like the desert. There was a pretty good chance Dorothy fell victim to Glatman. There were a lot of similarities. She's got a nude body. She was found in a remote area. She had been sexually assaulted, subjected to a severe beating. It kind of all lines up.
And she looked the part of who he was going for.
Right. She's young. She's beautiful. Probably a little naive.
Yeah.
Which is not her fault.
Yeah.
While the initial coroner's report focused on blunt force trauma and shock, Silvia Pettem noted striking similarities in ligature marks on victims, which aligns with Glatman's thinking for rope. Oh wait, which aligns with Glatman's thing for rope. The injuries Dorothy sustained, including broken bones and a skull fracture from being thrown down an embankment, could be consistent with a struggle or the act of body disposal after strangulation. Glatman's reign of terror ended in 1958 when he was caught in the act of kidnapping what would have been his fourth known victim. He confessed to 3 murders and led police to a toolbox containing horrifying pictures he had taken of his victims. He was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death, appearing to accept his fate, even asking the warden not to save his life.
Damn.
He was executed in California in 1959. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Which, like, great. I'm glad he's out of this world. He deserved it. But,
Yeah.
whew.
Yeah.
So although there's no hard evidence that Glatman killed Dorothy, it's a pretty good bet that he did. There's too many similarities, in my opinion. But what do you think?
I mean, yeah, everything seems to line up with, his kind of operating system, who he went for, where the body was found, her being, like, young and an easy target, obviously looking the part, like I said, of who he's kind of going for. So, I mean, it all kind of matches up.
Right. And nobody's necessarily, like, looking for her because she left.
Yeah.
So she's vulnerable in that way, too. Like,
and the family had assumed that she had just taken off.
Right.
So, yeah. Oy, oy, oy.
It's so sad.
So sad.
In May of 2010, the simple Jane Doe headstone in Boulder's Columbia Cemetery was finally replaced with one bearing Dorothy Gay Howard's true name. She finally got to reclaim her identity and humanity after decades of anonymity. Her surviving family members, including her sister Marlene Ashman and great-niece Michelle Fowler, gathered for a memorial service, finally able to say the goodbyes they couldn't give in April of 1954. Marlene Ashman, who lives in Arkansas, chose to keep Dorothy's body buried in Boulder. She acknowledged that moving her sister to the family plot in Arizona might risk her being forgotten because there weren't that many members of her family who still lived there. Instead, she recognized that Dorothy had found a new family in Boulder. The community and the dedicated investigators who had cared for her and worked tirelessly to give her back her name. Marlene expressed immense gratitude to the people of Boulder, Detective Ainsworth, and Silvia Pettem for their unwavering commitment to her sister over all those years. The renaming and memorialization of Dorothy Gay Howard are so much more than just solving a case. They symbolize a selfless community coming together to get some sort of justice for Dorothy. Her family finally had a sense of peace, even if closure itself maybe was elusive for them. Dorothy also showed us how persistence, dedication, and new forensic science can come together to solve a cold case. Do you have any final thoughts, Maggie?
I will say, like, I guess, like, my main takeaway is, like, I think it's really cool that, like, the community of Boulder and then Silvia kind of taking it upon themselves to, like, make sure that she wasn't, like, forgotten, or to take an effort to figure out who she was and who was maybe responsible. Because most people, if you just have this, like, anonymous grave, most people just walk by like, like, I wonder who that is or what happened there, on to the next. But I kind of like that those people, like, wanted to give her, like, the dignity of, like, a burial, even at the time when she was still just, like, Jane Doe. And then, yeah, to, like, years later have someone just walk by and kind of take it upon themselves to be like, I want to figure out what happened here, who this person is, and who might have been responsible for their death. So I think that's kind of the cool takeaway from it all. And then, yeah, having these investigators having some foresight into, like, we don't have the technology to figure out who this person is or who may have done it now, but if we just say these couple of things maybe down the road, someone can do it. And it's a good thing that they did that. The couple things is, yeah, they had no other, like, physical evidence or anything else to go off of. They just had this, whatever, the tooth, the DNA or whatever, and all that stuff, the mtDNA.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's really cool that it all kind of ended up coming together, even though it was way down the line.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of stuff that I had to leave out for the sake of time. And I'll send you the documentary about it.
Yes, please.
Because it goes more in depth. They did, like, facial reconstruction. Just a bunch of different stuff. And that's what led Michelle to email and be like, I think this is my aunt. Like, that facial reconstruction kind of looks like her.
Yeah.
So I'll send that your way.
Please.
And if you're listening and you want more details on this, I'll put it in the show notes. I think it's on Hulu is where I watched it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'll send it everybody's way.
Heck yeah!
Well, Maggie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. Happy to hang and hear some fun true crime stories.
And you were an amazing guest. You had all the right comments in all the right places. It was wonderful.
I do what I can as an amateur in this podcast space.
Yes, I mean, same.
Yeah.
Same. I was telling my guest yesterday when I recorded, like, I've been doing this for over 6 months now, which is crazy, and I still don't know what I'm doing. I don't.
Well, you sound very competent.
Well,
I guess I've only listened to Andy's because I was like, I want to hear what's going on, and I know Andy, so I'll listen to that episode, and it was very well done, so...
Well, thank you. Thank you. And if you're listening out there, thank you so much for tuning in. I really couldn't do it without your support. Keep a lookout as well. I'm going to be starting a Buy Me a Coffee thing where you can go on and you can buy me a coffee, and that money goes directly into the podcast for, like, updating equipment or things like that. Just all sorts of podcast expenses. Maybe advertising. We'll see. We will see. But this week, I hope you drink some really good tea and you have the most amazing sleep of your life. Like, take a really good nap. And if nothing else, remember, friends don't let friends commit crimes.
Darn tootin'.
Bye! Woohoo!
Friends don't let friends commit crimes.